The palace gardens of Ithra Prime had never seen violence. For 3,000 cycles, the crystalline towers had stood as monuments to peace, their spires reaching toward twin suns that bathed the empire in perpetual golden light. Empress Kalindra walked among the floating gardens as she did every morning, her 6 primary guards maintaining their ceremonial distance, close enough to honor her station, far enough to grant her dignity. The human walked differently. Sergeant Marcus Chen had been assigned to the Empress's guard detail only 2 months prior, part of the cultural exchange program between Earth and the Ythran Empire. The other guards, all Ythran warriors bred for generations to serve the throne, had initially scoffed at his presence. He was small by their standards, lacking their natural armor plating and secondary hearts. He carried no plasma lance, only the crude kinetic weapons his people favored. But Kalindra had watched him. While her guards performed their duties with practiced perfection, the human's eyes never stopped moving. He studied shadows, analyzed sightlines, and positioned himself with an intensity that seemed almost paranoid to her peaceful people. "Your bodyguard makes me nervous, Radiance," her chief advisor had mentioned once. "He acts as though danger lurks in every corner." Perhaps, Kalindra had replied, that is why his species survived long enough to reach the stars. The morning began like any other. Kalindra paused beside the reflecting pool, admiring the bioluminescent fish that swirled beneath its surface. Her guards stood at their posts, statuesque and proud. The human, Chen, stood 15 paces behind and to her left, his position seemingly random until one realized it gave him clear sight lines to 3 entry points simultaneously. The first explosion turned the eastern tower into a cloud of crystal shards and flame. Kalindra's guards froze, their centuries of peace rendering them unable to process the impossible. The Ythran Empire had no enemies. There were no assassins, no rebels, no threats. Their minds struggled to categorize what their eyes witnessed. The second explosion erupted from beneath the garden itself. The floating platform lurched, its anti-gravity generators screaming as they failed. Kalindra felt her feet leave the ground as physics momentarily forgot its rules. Around her, her guards stumbled, their ceremonial armor too heavy for sudden movement, their weapons still holstered because they couldn't comprehend that such things might actually be needed. The third explosion came from above, a shuttle diving toward the garden, its hull painted in colors that matched no known faction. Kalindra saw weapons ports opening along its flanks, saw the telltale shimmer of charging plasma cannons. Her guards saw it too, and for the first time in 3,000 cycles of unbroken peace, the Imperial Guard did something that would forever stain their honor. They ran. 6 warriors, each bred from birth to die for their Empress, turned and fled toward the dubious safety of the collapsing palace. Their training had prepared them to stand ceremonially. Their instincts, suppressed for generations, now screamed only one word: survive. Kalindra watched them go with something approaching understanding. They had never been tested. She couldn't blame them for failing a test they never knew existed. Then something slammed into her from the side. The human's tackle drove them both behind a marble pillar, as plasma fire vaporized the space where she'd been standing. Chen's body wrapped around hers, his armored vest pressing against her ceremonial robes, his helmet tucked over her head. She felt his heart hammering against her back, a single, fragile human heart beating so fast she thought it might burst. "Stay down." His voice was rough, stripped of all ceremony and protocol. More plasma fire. The pillar above them began to melt, dripping superheated stone. Chen shifted, positioning himself between Kalindra and the shuttle, his body becoming her shield. She felt him grunt as something shrapnel or debris struck his exposed leg. His rifle came up, the primitive kinetic weapon barking in sharp contrast to the whine of plasma. Through the gap between his arm and torso, Kalindra watched as his bullets, actual metal projectiles, punched through the shuttle's hull. It was like watching someone attack a starship with a sharpened stick. Absurd and impossible, except it worked. The shuttle's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, had no protocol for solid matter traveling at supersonic speeds. Chen's bullets tore through hydraulics and control systems. The craft lurched, its dive becoming a spin. "When I say run," Chen growled, his rifle clicking empty. "You run toward the west gate. Don't look back." "Don't wait for me. I am your Empress," Kalindra started. "You're a person who's about to die if you don't listen." He slammed a fresh magazine home. "Ready, run!" She ran. Behind her, she heard Chen's rifle singing its violent song, heard him shouting, not words, just noise meant to draw attention, to make himself the target instead of her. A plasma bolt caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. Kalindra stopped, turning despite his orders, and saw him fall to one knee. The shuttle was coming around for another pass, and Chen was exposed, wounded, alone. He looked at her then, and despite the pain twisting his features, he smiled. Then he charged. A single human soldier, armed with a weapon his attackers considered primitive, ran directly at a gunship. He fired as he ran, reloaded without breaking stride, fired again. His bullets found the shuttle's damaged sections, exploited weaknesses, created new ones. The shuttle's pilot, whoever they were, made a choice. They could finish their assassination attempt on the Empress, or deal with the insane human attacking their craft. They chose the human. The shuttle's full weapons array turned on Chen, and the garden where he stood became an inferno. Kalindra reached the west gate where palace security, finally responding, pulled her to safety. She screamed for them to help Chen, to save him, but the garden was gone, consumed by fire and destruction. They found him 3 hours later when the flames finally died. He'd been thrown into the reflecting pool by the blast, the water saving him from incineration. His armor was melted, his body broken, but he was breathing. Barely. Kalindra knelt beside him in the medical bay as alien doctors worked frantically to save him. His eyes opened, unfocused and clouded with pain. "Did you?" he whispered. "Did you make it?" "I made it," she said, taking his hand. "Because of you." "Good." His eyes closed. "That's good." That's the job. He survived. Humans, the doctors learned, were ridiculously difficult to kill. When Chen finally recovered enough to stand, Kalindra awarded him the Empire's highest honor, the Crystal Heart, never before given to an outsider. Her 6 former guards were stripped of rank and exiled, their names struck from history, but Chen asked for a different honor. "Let them stay," he said. "They failed once because they were never taught how to succeed. Let me teach them. Let me teach all your guards what it means to actually protect someone." And so he did. The Witheren Empire's guard remained ceremonial, but beneath the ceremony they learned to think like Chen, to see threats in shadows, to understand that peace was not the absence of danger, but the successful deterrence of it. And in the center of the new palace gardens, built on the ruins of the old, stood a statue, not of the Empress, but of a human soldier, his body curved protectively, his face set with determination. Beneath it, an inscription in both Itheren and English: "He stood when others ran."